We have to decide what's more important. Is it Facebook's profits or protecting American democracy? And if there's a clash between those two things, I know what side I'm on. How is it that we can be living in such different universes? There's a big difference between freedom of speech and freedom of reach. And so I think we're past the point where the companies are no longer responsible, no longer liable for the consequences of what they are actually amplifying and recommending to all of us. And it kind of made sense with the old internet, the way it existed in the early days. The problem is Facebook, Google, Twitter, these social media companies, they operate in a different way. They're not just neutral community bulletin boards. They take what we post, and then they write algorithms that determine who sees what we post. Algorithms that determine what goes viral, what spreads to other people, and what each and every one of us sees when we go online. Americans are going to disagree with each other. We're going to disagree passionately on the issues. What's changed in the last 2 years, within our communities, even within our families, is that we can't even agree on the same facts, because we're getting our information from these wildly different sources, and the algorithms determine which source it is. The algorithms determine which reality we see. Conspiracy theories are tearing us apart. But as that was happening, I was involved in a really hard-fought campaign for my congressional seat. And the Republicans started running an ad that was taken like straight from the QAnon playbook.
In every city, in every neighborhood, around every corner, sex offenders are living among us.
And they ran it for 4 straight weeks. They spent over $1 million on it. Just as my resolution was moving in the House, QAnon itself noticed this, and my office got about a half dozen death threats directed against me. And you know, you got to take that stuff seriously, especially since January 6th. I think people understand that angry, crazy words on the internet can lead to real world violence.
There's a false assumption that there is a difference between what is, the online world and the so-called real world. Often there is a real person behind the screen, and so you are having a real impact on that person.
I think the most dangerous thing we have today is not that some people will post hateful things, but it is that they are amplified algorithmically across the internet.
There's been this idea that there are YouTube rabbit holes that people go down, and one video leads to another, and it leads them to more and more hateful content. But the actual empirical evidence of that, right, hadn't really been done. We found that folks who had a high amount of racial resentment were actually being exposed to alternative and extremist content on the platform.
So what my bill would say is that if you use your algorithms to recommend, to amplify content on your platform that can be linked to a real-world act of violence, like an act of terrorism, then the victims could actually sue you. They could make the case that your amplification of that message, your service to that extremist group, helping them recruit members around the country, around the world, contributed to that act of violence. It's narrow, it's targeted, but it does incentivize them to change the design of their network so that they're not amplifying extremism quite as much. Otherwise, we're going to get more stuff like January 6th. And this is something we can do something about. It's not hopeless, it's not inevitable.